Hello everyone, this is Genius Yoshi, and today we're playing some Lorcana. And we're going to be playing something fun. As you can see on the screen, we're going to be playing Hades, King of Olympus. Now this powerful 8-drop is a 6/7, and he has the ability, he normally quests for 1, but he has the ability to quest for 1 more for every other villain character you have in play. So Hades has the ability to be one of the strongest quester that has been revealed so far. Now there is a cost to playing Hades. Because he costs 8 and cannot be put in our ink pool, we will only be playing 2 copies of Hades. Because if you get stuck with 2 or 3 big Hades in your hand, then you're stuck with a bunch of dead cards early on. We will have other ways of fetching for Hades in our deck, and so we're likely to get to play him during our games. Also note that I'll be playing 40 card decks because there's only about 30% of the set that have been revealed so far, and the real cards have not been released yet, so I'll be playing the games with proxies. But please support the official product upon release, I certainly will. So that Hades also has shift 6, which means that we can shift him on top of the smaller Hades. Now what does this one do? Well, this one you're probably more familiar with if you've been playing or following some of my other Lorcana videos. This Hades is a 4-drop 3/2. When you play him, you get to pick a card back or a character back from your discard pile and add it back to your hand. A very strong card because it's 2 for 1. You play him, he replaces himself, but it's also another card that cannot be put in your ink pool. Now, because we're playing high-costed cards, we're also going to be playing some lanterns. So Lantern is a ramp spell, a ramp item to be more precise. It's really just a 2-drop, and from that point on you can use Lantern like an ink for your characters. So you can use that ink to play your characters, you can use that ink to shift your characters if you want to. And now we've reached a point where we have 10 cards that cannot be put in our ink pool, which means that a good chunk of the rest of our deck will want to be able to put in our ink pool, especially if there are some of these cards that we want to play. So you want to reach that 8 ink. How do we do that? Well, one of the ways is by surviving for a long time. So we're going to be playing some defensive cards. We're going to be playing some Jafar, Wicked Sorcerer. Now, Jafar is a 2/5 for 4 and challenger +3. So whenever he challenges another character, he acts as a 5/5, which is very, very strong stats for a 4-drop. And on the defense, he's a 2/5, which is still pretty decent. 5 toughness on 4 ink cost is pretty good. But the real reason we're playing Jafar is because he's a villain, and villains will feed Hades. Also know that small Hades is a villain. Who else is a villain? There's Dr. Facilier. Dr. Facilier is actually a mini version of Hades. So he's a 0/4 for 2, but whenever he challenges, he becomes a 2/4. So he only quests for 1. These are not big quester, but they're villains, and we want villains in our deck in order to make big Hades that much stronger. Also, Dr. Facilier, like Jafar, has fairly strong stats whenever challenging, so it's not a character we'll want to quest a lot with. We'll want to sit back, take out our opponent's threats, and try to make it to the late game. But now we need some other way to generate enough cards to put in our ink pool to get to Hades. So why not play one of the strongest cards in the format? Friends on the Other Side. It's a 3 ink, draw 2. Whoa, it's already strong enough as is. So 3 ink, draw 2, but your characters can sing it. So if you have a character with 3 or more ink cost, you can actually exert your character and play this card for free. And free draw spells is extremely powerful. And this is going to allow us to have enough cards to keep on playing more cards in our ink pool to eventually reach the Hades level of ink. So in the same vein, we're going to be playing Maleficent Sorceress. It's a 2/2 for 3 that draws a card when entering the battlefield. So it really just replaces itself and allows you to have something on the board to deal with your opponent's threats. Also, you can use this Maleficent to sing friends on the other side, since we don't really mind losing that Maleficent. She's not there for the stats, she's there to get us over the hump and into casting our big Hades. So now we have this Dr. Facilier, Jafar, and Maleficent, which is also a villain. And we're playing these combat-centric cards. So it seems like a perfect time to bring out Elsa. So Elsa's not a villain, she's a hero. But she's a hero in this deck too, because you can exert Elsa to force exert one of your opponent's character, and once it's exerted, your bad guys can actually go and challenge them, get their power boost, and take out the opposing player's threats. Also, if we're going to be doing that with Elsa, and we're going to be aggressively taking out threats, let's play some Maximuses. Now what does Maximus do? Whenever he enters the battlefield, you can reduce the power of the strength of an opponent's character by 2. With Elsa in play, force an opponent character to become exerted, play Maximus, bam, that character no longer has the same punch as it does, and send the bad guys to deal the fatal blow. Now I'm talking into an idealistic scenario, but you see the type of synergies that can come out of that. And then we're going to be playing a pair of wardrobes, which are just 3/4s for 3, solid stats, not a lot of questing ability. The main reason is if you look around this area, these are all the 3-drop creatures. And the reason why I want so many 3-drops in this deck is to ensure that I can sing friends on the other side. Because when you get to sing it, it's just that much more powerful. We do want to have a certain quota of villains, so we have Facilier, Maleficent, Jafar, Small Hades, and Big Hades, so almost half of our characters. But when doing build-arounds like that, it's always important to remember that you don't need all your characters to be villains or on team. Sometimes you can play just strong cards like Elsa, or cards that play the role that you want them to do, like Wardrobe, just challenging and holding the fort at the 3-drop slot. And then we need one more card in the 4-of to wrap up our list, which is going to be Our Guest. Be Our Guest allows you to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and reveal a character to put it in your hand and put the rest of the cards in the bottom of your deck. So Be Our Guest is one of the ways that we can search for Hades by looking at the top 4 cards. We can also sing Be Our Guest. So if we want to use some of our bigger characters like Wardrobe or Maleficent we don't care about too much, to sing Be Our Guest to try and fetch our big Hades, we can do so. Otherwise, we can just put it in our ink pool. And late game, it's actually a decent draw. It can find us either one of the smaller Hades, one of the bigger Hades, maybe an Elsa in a pinch, maybe some draw with the 3-drop Maleficent. So it's a fairly versatile card that will most of the time end up in our ink pool. But the ability to sing it, the ability to draw it late game and still get something good out of it, makes it a good inclusion in the deck. And so that's the list of Hades, King of Olympus, and his villain horde. Now, let's see this deck in action with some games. Let's get started with game 1. We roll a 4. Opponent rolls a 2. Which means we'll get to go first. Let's see what we draw. Our opponent is going to be on Questing Princesses. If you'd like to see the deck list, please subscribe to my channel, as I'll be posting a video about that deck list pretty soon. Also, it really helps to encourage my channel and keep these cool videos coming. So, what do we have here? We have Friends on the Other Side, which is a very powerful draw spell that we want. We have a Lantern for ramp. Then we have a bunch of 2-drops and 3-drops. I do like Facilier to just ensure that we have a threatening presence. Elsa's always nice, Maximus, but we kind of want to see a big Hades. Do we want the lantern here, or are we going for the friends on the other side type of play? So turn 1's nothing. Turn 2, we could lantern. Then on turn 3, we could play double 2-drop, which is not what we really want. We really want to play a 3-drop on 3. Ideally a more solid one. So these are not exactly what we want. Maybe we send those back. Keep Facilier. Actually, let's send Lantern back too. Let's keep a Facilier and a friend on the other side. And see what we get. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the reason why I'm sending the Lantern back is in case I'm drawing a second Lantern. I don't really want the 2 Lanterns as part of my opening hand. 1 is sufficient. Now that we have the Lantern, we don't really want to play it that early. We'll want a Facilier on 2, probably Maleficent on 3 in order to enable us to play the friends on the other side. So our curve is set. Let's see what our opponent has. Opponent has a small Aurora, Ariel, Jasmine, Mickey, Let It Go, and Hades. So there's a 2-3. I think the opponent just wants to go to questing route with a hand like this. Just go with a bunch of questing. Send back Hades and Mickey in order to have cards to put in the ink pool. Drawing a Stitch. Alright. So the hands have been drawn. And now we play. So we need to ink something. We're going to be inking Maximus. So Maximus goes in the ink pool. And we pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws a second copy of Jasmine. Jasmine will go in the ink pool. And our opponent will also pass the turn. We draw another Maximus. Not exactly what we were looking for, but we have sufficient draw in our hand. Let's ink a Maleficent, bringing us to 2 inks. And then we can play Dr. Facilier as our defensive card, although we're under no threat. Since we're under no pressure. No, we want to play Maleficent next turn. So let's play Facilier. Facilier is going to hold the fort and ensure that we are in a good defensive state. And our opponent isn't going to try and defeat us immediately with high questing cards. Opponent's turn. Let It Go. Opponent does not want to let it go, so he lets it go into the ink pool. Opponent plays Aurora, the 2-drop that quests for 2. So Aurora, Briar Rose. Regal Princess. Wrong one. We draw Jafar. Alright, Jafar is okay. We'll ink our Maximus. And we will play Maleficent as planned. Maleficent Sorceress. Allowing us to draw 1 card. Which is a small Hades. Gotta start getting our underworld crew together. I think I might even want to quest with Facilier here. No, I want to keep my villains alive. I will just pass a turn. Opponent draws. Develop your brain, but our opponent already has the curve they want. So opponent will put Jasmine number 2 in the ink pool and play Jasmine. A pair of 2-drops ready to quest. Of course, our opponent will not quest with Aurora because that's a free damage for Facilier. Although Jasmine's in a decent spot. Opponent wouldn't. I don't think our opponent would want to quest. Because if Aurora quests, Facilier challenges, then Jasmine will fight Facilier. But if I have something that I can challenge back Jasmine, our opponent really wants to be in questing mode. So it's back to us. We draw for the turn. Also note that I'm not going to be exerting my ink during these games. I really should be exerting the ink, but due to the amount of table space and to just make the games go a little bit faster, I'm not going to exert the inks. Anyways, we can remember how much ink has been spent during the turn by playing all the cards at once, or just being carefully counting. Alright. So, is that another Maximus for the ink pool? Well, we shouldn't do that yet, because we're going to be drawing some cards. So we're going to sing Friends on the Other Side using Maleficent to draw 2. 2 free cards, feel good. We draw a Wardrobe and a Jafar. So we definitely want to play one Jafar. We don't overly care about the second one. So we're going to... Although, now maybe we want to start putting on some villains. Yeah, let's put a Wardrobe in the ink pool. For 4, Jafar to the battlefield. And now we're starting to get a villains lineup. Jafar should keep our opponents at bay for quite some time, being a 5/5 on the challenging offensive. Opponent draws Ariel. Opponent doesn't really need 2 Ariels. So Ariel in the ink pool, pay 4 for Ariel. And that's about it. Is there any good questing? Our lineup is just too good to challenge them. So turn passes back to us. Draw another Dr. Facilier. Note that we shouldn't really be questing with Jafar or Facilier. Simply because our opponent is going to take them down for almost free. Maybe our opponent should have challenged Maleficent with Jasmine, but then it's a fairly bad trade with Facilier, and if they want to take down Facilier, I'm not sure. There's argument for both sides there. Well, we're going to keep on using Maleficent to sing Friends on the Other Side, drawing 2 more cards. We draw Hades and a Lantern. So this one we have 2, 4... We really want to get towards 6 or 8 in order to cast a Hades once we draw one. And the lanterns are sitting ducks in our hand. But is it too early to play the lanterns? No, I don't think so. I think it's time to ramp. Oh yeah, I said I wouldn't do that. So I'm going to play Lantern, Lantern. With the 4 ink. I could play a Facilier, but I don't think I need it. I think I'm going to ink a Facilier. Bring us to 5, 6, 7. And then we'll pass the turn to our opponent. So lanterns give us a bit of ramp. We'll want to reach 8 next turn so we can double play Hades Jafar or something like that. And we'll have enough ink to play our Hades if we draw it. Opponent draws Ariel. Opponent's on 4. So develop your brain. We'll go in the ink pool. And now, I think our opponent wants to start questing, and we've given them an opportunity. So let it go on Jafar. With all the ink, Jafar goes into our ink pool. Now, the only thing we have to challenge is Facilier. So our opponent will probably take the opportunity to challenge Maleficent now. So Jasmine challenges Maleficent, taking 2 points of damage, taking out our Maleficent. And then both of the questers on their side of the board are going to quest, bringing the total to 4-0. And turn passes back to us. So by playing the lanterns, we've lost a lot of tempo on the board as we draw another Maleficent. And our opponent is punishing us by questing with all of those characters. So now we need to regain that tempo. So Facilier is going to go and take out Jasmine, taking 3 points of damage at the same time. They're on 3, 6, 7, 8. For 8, we'll want to go Jafar Hades. Just a solid drop. And Jafar is going to fetch us back Maleficent. So we'll have more card draw power. It's actually a lot of free cards. Hades gets us Maleficent if our opponent takes out Hades. Well, Maleficent is the free card. Maleficent fetches us another card, so it's a lot of cards that our opponent needs to deal with. Whether they're strong or not is a different matter. Opponent draws a Lantern. Lantern is not exactly what our opponent wanted to see, but the opponent can still play their own Lantern. For 4, and there's 2 left. Oh no, for 2. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 left for a second copy of Ariel to enter the fray. Now I think our opponent wants to get rid of Facilier. But Facilier is going to trade whenever it attacks or challenges, but it's kind of free. So I think Aurora challenges Facilier, takes him out. And Ariel quests. Questing for 2, trying to get to that winning spot of the game. As the turn passes back to us, we draw friends on the other side. That's another thing that Hades is very good at. He has 4 stats, and he's gotten his value, so why not get more value? Let's sing. Now, it's kind of ironic to see Hades sing friends on the other side. I mean, maybe Hercules is his friend. It's kind of an odd friendship. One of these hate-love relationships. And we are still at 8. We've drawn a Lantern, which is a bit of a dead draw. We do need a bit of pressure. So Jafar is going to challenge Ariel, taking out the biggest threat. Taking 3 points of damage. Our opponent's only at 6, so we do have some time. Maybe I should have played the Maximus. I'm tempted to just drop the other Lantern, but it might be a little too slow. We have a Facilier in the discard pile. So that's 4, 5, 6. Yeah, let's go for something like that. Let's play Lantern first. Cost us 2. We're at 4, 7. We'll play Maleficent to draw a card. We have 4 left. We draw Maximus. We'll play Hades. Hades will fetch us back Facilier. Just so we have another threat, another villain. And we're still at 5 cards in hand. The power of friends on the other side just never ceases to amaze me. And on that note, we will pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent draws Moana. Moana is quite interesting here. And I think our opponent just goes for Moana. Five for Moana. Without any challenge this turn. Our opponent's setting up to just quest for 7, keeping the princesses safe. But for now, the turn passes back to us. Moana is threatening when she can just protect her friends like that. Now, unfortunately, our Maximuses are feeling pretty weak, but we did draw an Elsa, which is going to be able to force a bit more challenges. And we're at 3, 6, 9, so you get to play a lot of stuff this turn. We can sing. Yes, let's have Maleficent sing, be our guest. Let's look at the top 4 cards of our deck. Ooh, the only thing we found is another Elsa. And the rest on the bottom of our deck in any order. Order doesn't really matter. And then we can play 3 cards. We're going to be playing Maleficent, draw a card, another Elsa, and we'll play a pair of Elsas. So we have a lot of stuff. A pair of Elsas, a Maleficent, one of which is exerted, a pair of Hades. And we gotta start questing at some point. Although with the Elsas, we'll be able to challenge quite annoyingly. I think I want to quest with the Hades and Maleficent. I just played this one. So quest for 2. We gotta start questing at some point. Otherwise, we are gonna lose the game. But the Elsas are gonna be quite helpful to take down some of our opponent's threats. Passing the turn back. Opponent draws a second Moana. Now that is pretty devastating. Opponent quests with Ariel, quests with Aurora. Going to 10, quests with Moana. Going to 13, Aurora and Ariel ready. The problem is really the Elsas now. But our opponent doesn't need that much. His opponent just pays 5 for a second Moana here. Is there any good challenge? I think Ariel wants to prevent Jafar from dealing a ton of damage to Moana, and Ariel can take down a Hades. I think our opponent wants to ensure Moana lives, and we only have 2 Elsas. So opponent passes the turn back. We draw another Be Our Guest. And then we have a pile of doubles. So we need to deal with some of our opponent's characters. And we have Maximus's. How much power do we have? So Jafar can hit for 5. With a Maleficent, they can take down this Moana. So let's start with that. Maleficent and Jafar are going to challenge Moana, taking 1 point of damage each, and taking down Moana. Thanks to Jafar being each challenger and having the ability to hit for 5. Now I think we want to... Oh, we can take down the Moana and take down Aurora. So Elsa number 1 is going to exert Moana. And both of my Hadeses are going to challenge Moana, taking 1 point of damage and taking her out. As the other Elsa is going to exert Aurora. And then we just drop a ton of things. So we go Maximus, reducing the combat power of Aurora by 2. We'll also go another Elsa and a Facilier. Then Maleficent is going to take down Aurora without taking any points of damage. Thanks to Maximus. And I am running out of space on the stable to play all of the cards. Which is a very bad sign for our opponent and a very good sign for us. But we'll pass the turn back. Opponent draws in Ariel. Opponent quests with Ariel, going to 15. But I think this is over. I mean, the opponent can put Ariel in the ink pool, summons Twitch, pass the turn back. But we just have so many characters on the board. With the Maleficents and the friends on the other side, we have a lot of friends on the other side. So we just take out everything. Elsa is going to exert Stitch. We can play a Maximus for 3. Reduce the combat power of Stitch. Actually, reduce the combat power of Ariel. Jafar is going to go trade with Stitch. Ooh, that one hurts. Just 1 point of damage on Jafar to take down a full 3/5. It's devastating. And now Ariel is sitting there as a 3/4 exerted. I mean, that's what Facilier is doing. So we've reduced her combat power to 1. So Facilier is going to challenge her. Take 1, Ariel takes 2. Then we can challenge her with a Maleficent to just take 1 point of damage, taking out Ariel. That combo between Elsa and Maximus is actually pretty good. Now, the only thing we're missing is a Hades. So we played 3 for Maximus, so we have 6 left. So we're gonna be our guest. Maleficent will sing. Looking at the top 4 cards of our library, we find a Maleficent. The rest goes to the bottom. We're gonna sing Be Our Guest with Elsa. Elsa's pretty good at singing. It's highly unnecessary. The game is in the pocket, but we will find a Hades, which is what we were looking for. Because you gotta win more when you're winning. And then we're going to shift 6. Play Hades on top of the small Hades. Note that we're at 2 lore. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4 villains plus Hades. So Hades gets the quest for 5. And he can actually quest this turn because he was shifted. Quest for 1, 2, 3 more. Going to 10, passing back to our opponent. Our opponent has nothing. Opponent can play Hades, fetch an Aurora, play the Aurora. Turn passes back to us. And we quest to win with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 5 from Hades. As we close out game number 1 with a flurry of villains, help with the Snow Queen to take down game 1 quite handsomely against the questing princesses. Let's go for game number 2, playing our Hades deck. Hades and the villains against the princesses questing version. Our opponent's going to go first this game. And so our opponent has a 2-drop Aurora as well as Moana, which are good keeps. Although Lantern on 2 followed by Ariel on 3 is quite tempting. So I think, yeah, Lantern, Ariel. Opponent needs another 3 or 4 drop. So these 4 are going to go into our opponent's deck. Opponent finds Mini Ariel, Jasmine, and Hades, which is going to do the trick. As we shuffle up the remaining cards, we'll draw for ourselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Facilier, Maximus, Double Jafar, Maleficent, Wardrobe, and another Facilier. We don't need so many Faciliers, so keep 1 Facilier, 1 Maleficent, 1 Jafar, just so we have a good curve, and we'll send the rest back and see what we get. We really want to get some of those draw spells. Pair of oh, 3 lanterns. Now you don't want to see that. Well, at least we have a pair of Maleficents, which are going to help us draw into some more action. Alright. Well, let's go. Opponent goes first. Opponent is going to be putting a mini in the ink pool, passing the turn back to us. We draw a Jafar. We don't need so many Jafars, I thought. Well, so many Jafars. We're going to be playing Lanterns, so we might as well ink our Facilier and pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws a card. It's a second copy of Moana. Moana being pretty good in that deck. Opponent's going to ink a Jasmine to play a Lantern. So Lantern comes in play. As turn passes back to us, we draw Hades, which we cannot ink. We will put the Maleficent into our ink pool. Let's try to make this game go long with more Jafars. We're going to be playing a Lantern as well, passing the turn back. One draws Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is a good card for adding more to the ink pool, but I think our opponent already has enough of that. That's kind of a problem, because between Hades and Mickey, our opponent can't just play both Ariels. Unless they sacrifice a Moana, but Moana's just so good. So I think Ariel has to go in the ink pool. 3 ink plus a Lantern for Ariel to enter the battlefield. First drop's a 4-drop. Turn passes back to us. We draw a Wardrobe. So we're on 3. We can't play 2 lanterns, unfortunately, just because of the way lanterns work. So we're gonna ink our wardrobe to play a Jafar using the lantern's ink. Passing turn back, opponent draws the lantern. The opponent would have to ink a Moana to play Moana, so the opponent will play a lantern off of 2, and with a 3 left, play a Mickey, putting the top card of their deck into the ink pool. And Jafar is a big threat for Ariel, so Ariel cannot quest this turn. Turn passes back to us. We draw a Hades. Jafar is doing a lot more work than I imagined. A 4-drop that acts as a 5/5 challenger is very powerful. Now, I have too many cards that I cannot ink, which is unfortunate. So we're going to pay 2 for a lantern, and using 2 lanterns in our last ink, we're going to be playing a Maleficent, drawing a Maleficent, and we'll pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws an Aurora. The opponent now has 6 ink. All the threats are there. So 5 for Moana, I think, is the play. Maybe the opponent can just stack Moanas and try to protect them all. And Mickey could quest, but I don't think it's a good option. So the turn passes back to us. We draw an Elsa. Elsa is something we can ink, but we have 5 available. I think we take the opportunity to play our 3rd lantern. Then we have 1 ink and 3 lanterns to play a 2nd copy of Jafar. Just keeping the pressure on the table with our Wicked Sorcerer. Pass to our opponent, who draws a Stitch. Stitch is good. Our opponent kind of wants to protect the Moanas. I think Stitch on turn 6 is pretty good. 2 lanterns and 4 ink for Stitch. And the opponent doesn't want to sacrifice the Moana just yet. So turn will pass back to us. We draw. The Jafars are really good at creating a standstill right now. We're on 6. So I'll be playing... actually, let's play double Elsa. Let's just let it go. So we'll play a pair of Snow Queens, threatening to take out Moana next turn, and Stitch, actually. So I'll pass the turn back to our opponent. I already had Elsa pretty high on my list of card power level, but with Jafar and these powerful challengers, she just comes in at a completely different level. She is very strong. Alright, well, the opponent's going to play an Aurora and exert Aurora to draw a card, thanks to Stitch's ability. And then Jasmine. So the opponent has 4 inks left. So the opponent will ink small Jasmine to play a 2nd copy of Moana. And now, since we have the Elsas, the opponent might as well quest. So quest with Ariel, quest with Mickey, quest with Stitch. That's 6. Quest with the Moana that can, up to 9, which unexerts Ariel as well as Aurora. And the turn passes back to us, although these can, there's nothing to challenge. So the turn passes back to us. We draw another Jafar. The opponent already quested up to 9, so we need to make something happen. Jafar will take out Stitch, because Stitch is a huge threat, taking 3 points of damage. So our 4-drop lives out of this combat. Then we'll want to take out Moana here for sure. So Jafar is going to hit her for 5 and Maleficent as well. Each will take a single point of damage. So we've taken out one Moana, but we don't have enough power to take out the other one. I think we need to take out Aurora, so Elsa's gonna exert Aurora, and Elsa's gonna challenge Aurora, banishing her out of the realm, but taking 2 points of damage in the meantime. We are at 6, which is not exactly what we want, but we'll play another Maleficent to draw a card. Ooh, Hades. Hades does not allow us to play another card. So I guess we'll pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws another Mickey Mouse. Not exactly what they were looking for. But the opponent has an opportunity to take out our Elsas, which I think our opponent should do. So the opponent can quest with Ariel, because that questing is free. Quest with Moana to go up to 14, which readies Ariel. Ariel can fight our Elsa that's defenseless and take 2 points of damage. Moana is quite a powerful card as well. And Mickey Mouse is gonna go and fight off Elsa, banishing her as well. And then our opponent still has 6 ink to play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actually. Which is enough for Hades and Mickey. So Hades will fetch back Moana, and Mickey is going to add more ink. Then the turn passes back to us. We draw Dr. Facilier. I should have readied everything first. We can use Jafar to challenge Moana, taking 1 point of damage. 5 goes on Moana. This Maleficent challenges Moana, surviving, banishing that Moana. Then Maleficent is going to challenge Ariel, but will get banished. And Jafar might as well just eliminate that Mickey Mouse, taking 1 point of damage in the process. You just want to trade resources as much as possible. And we're still on 6 ink. I think it's time we ink a Jafar. Then we can go 4 for Hades, bring back Maleficent, and play Maleficent to draw a card. Ooh, friends on the other side. That's good, but everything's exerted, so not this time. Pass the turn back to opponent. Finds another Moana. Opponent 3, 6, 7, 8. One will just play a Moana. And then Mickey can challenge Jafar, taking 2 points of damage and taking out Jafar. Hades can take out the other Jafar in the trade because they've been causing so much harm. And then our opponent will pass the turn back. If you're ready, we draw. Maleficent is going to look for friends on the other side as we draw 2 cards. And then we really need an Elsa. So we'll play Hades, bring back an Elsa, and play her as well. Maleficent will go and challenge Mickey, taking 1 point of damage and taking Mickey out. And we need to find a win condition pretty soon. Right now, a big Hades would be pretty good. So let's be our guest. Look at the top 4 cards of our deck. We find Elsa, which is pretty good. We can't take friends on the other side, unfortunately. And that ends our turn, since we're all inked out. Passing the turn to our opponent. One quests with Moana, going up to 17. And the opponent will just play the biggest threat they have in Aurora. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And can play the smaller Aurora as well. And then the turn passes back to us. And now we need to remove everything on the board every turn, which is why Elsa is so important. But we can't quite. We draw Lantern. So we need to take out Moana. So we'll challenge her with both Hades. Taking 1 point of damage, taking out Moana. Elsa will exert Aurora. And Maleficent is going to trade in the challenge. And then we can play some stuff. So we have another Elsa. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Elsa, double Facilier. Just trying to keep the pressure alive. And trying to make sure our opponent can't quest with anything at all. We pass the turn back to our opponent, drawing an aerial. So Aurora will quest for 2, going to the deadly 19. And the opponent will play, I think aerial is the bigger threat. So 4 for aerial. Passing the turn back. We draw. Can we take them all out? I think so. Elsa will exert Ariel. We'll pay 3 for Maximus to reduce Ariel's power to 1. Then both Hades are going to go trade with that Aurora. And the Faciliers are going to go challenge Ariel, taking 1 point of damage each. And taking her out. Then we'll quest for 1 with Maleficent and the second Elsa. Going to 2. Passing the turn back to our opponent. One can Moana Aurora. Turn passes back to us. We draw. Another Dr. Facilier. The Elsas will exert Moana and Aurora. We have 2, 4, 6 to take out Moana. Faciliers each take 1 point of damage. Maleficent gets banished. Maximus challenges Aurora, taking 1 point of damage. And suddenly our opponent has no board, no hand. So we get to play a Lantern, play Facilier, Hades. Hades will fetch a Hades. And now I think we are in an unlosable position. Like the opponent can play Aurora as it's drawn. But because we have a Hades loop, and our Elsas can just keep on tapping whatever our opponent is playing, we can trade these two. Facilier and Maximus. Take out Aurora. But we can just Hades loop. I'll pay 4, get back a Hades. And then we can be our guest. Looking 4 cards deep. Finding another Elsa. And we'll pass the turn back. But at this point, the game is over. There is nothing our opponent can do. Looking at the top 2 cards. There's a Jasmine here. Even if the opponent tries to keep cards in hand, we are going to overtake the game. We draw Maximus. As long as we keep Hades in hand to just keep on recurring our other Hadeses, we are in good shape. Play another Elsa Wardrobe. Quest for 6. Going up to 8, passing turn. Opponent finds a Let It Go, and that's going to be it. There's no combination of cards our opponent can draw that would get them out of this mess. Next one would be a Hades. Still too slow. as opposed to our 3 Elsas. And most our opponent can put is 2 threats in a turn, and our Elsas would take care of it, and our clock is fast enough. So, the Hades Elsa deck takes game number 2. Alright, the games are over. Now it's time to look back at the MVPs of our strategy. Although the big Hades didn't make much of a presence, it's clear that the deck doesn't quest very much, and sometimes you need a way to win the game on a short clock. And we've seen on game number 1 that the deck tends to flood the board fairly high with a lot of creatures. And so Hades can come in and close that game in a couple of turns as you quest with your other characters. But the real MVPs have been Elsa and Jafar. Just the ability to exert an opponent character, and Jafar fighting as a 5/5 for 4 on the offense, has been very powerful at taking out our opponent's threats. In terms of recursion, Hades, Maleficent, and friends on the other side have just been keeping us drawing cards and applying a ton of pressure to our opponent to ultimately end up in us winning the game. So I hope that you've enjoyed this Hades and Villains deck, and that you'll enjoy my other videos. So please subscribe to my channel to make sure you don't miss out, and it really helps to support the channel. On that note, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.